Hello, Joe, and welcome to episode 3. So, I know it's been a big week, and our members know it's been a big week because you were on holidays last week, and then you had Hugh leaving for his recce, and the kids going back to school. So, that's all happened in the days since we last spoke. So, how are you feeling?
Good. So actually, I don't know why I said good because I'm not actually that great. I am like so exhausted, and I had like just this. I don't know. The girls have been very a lot the last sort of few days. I've had from the 12-year-old, I don't think you understand how much this is impacting me, and then from the nearly 10-year-old. I feel that you're spending all this time trying to make Matilda feel better and that you're not thinking about me in this. And I was like, geez, why did we like raise these children to be able to like articulate these feelings and things? I was like, I'd rather you just bottle up those feelings. I don't want to know about them.
Seen and not heard. Where have those days gone?
Yes. And so I'm finding that I'm just finding them heavy. But yeah, you're right. It's been a big week, even, and it's only halfway through the week. But look, husband of the year is very good. He literally cooked 2 weeks worth of meals and left them in the fridge for us.
What?
So when he went away. But yes, the kids are back at school this week, and I guess everything is just sort of getting a bit real. One of them asked it when we were having dinner last night. How many weeks until we go? And I was like, oh, it's not weeks. And then I was like, yes, 8.5 weeks. And so I
Wow.
think just even hearing things like that, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is wild. But we had just I had a really frustrating sort of day on Monday. And I guess anyone that's based in a rural area in whatever country that you're based would often find yourself in situations like this where what is some like a complicated or stressful situation is then amplified when you've got the tyranny of distance involved. So Monday's example was we'd sort of looked at the kids' passports, which expire in August this year, which is fine, until we then started doing the maths on that when they enter Thailand in April, they won't have 6 months on them and they need 6 months to get their visa, which again would be fine, but I'm taking them to Thailand in 4 weeks to go and do a recce. And in Australia, they say it takes 6 weeks to get your passport done, unless you pay an additional fee where you can get it done in 3 days or 5 days. But after an hour and a half on the phone with the passport office, I found that yeah, that's all well and good. Those 5-day processing happen from when the passport office receives the passport application, and they only send a truck out to the regions once a week to pick up these applications, which then means it's a week potentially before they even receive it, which makes it another week, which then they process in 5 days magically, and then it just happens to be timed with the truck to bring the passports back out. And I was like, I don't have time to do this. Even express is going to take possibly a month. And her response was, oh, well, that's fine. You can just drive to the passport office to pick it up. And I was like, that's 6.5 hours. No, I said, oh, okay, great. So that's in Canberra. And she said, hang on, what state are you based? And I said, New South Wales. She said, oh, no, yours will go to Sydney. So because I'm based in New South Wales, it's only Sydney. So I have to drive past Canberra's office, which is 3.5 hours drive, a further 3 hours drive to pick up the passports if they haven't arrived in time. And I was just like, "Ah." Anyway, the plus side of rural living is that I went to my post office and they were like, nah, it won't take that long. Don't worry. We've been sending them off and they've been coming back within 2 to 3 weeks. You'll be fine. And they were so cute. I went in one on Monday afternoon, got the girls' photos, had to go and get them signed and all the paperwork done, brought it back the next day. you'll be fine. We've been talking about you. It'll be no problem. We've got all faith. And like, do you know what? If you've got to go to Sydney, treat yourself to a nice hotel. That's what they said. I was like, okay.
Oh gosh.
So anyway, that was just yet an annoying thing, which, you know, I guess argument could be more organised with your passports, but you would think you're pretty right with a passport not expiring till August that you would be fine doing things in Q1 of the year. Anyway, it turns out not so much. So anyway, I will report back on whether or not our passports get back in time, and maybe this is a project within a project, is that we are tracking in real time where the girls' passports are each week to see whether or not Jo's going to be treating herself to a nice hotel.
I kind of, I'm not sure whether we're hoping for that for you. Like, would that be a good outcome potentially? You getting some Joe time away from all this?
No. 13 hours in the car in a hotel and then navigating to find wherever the passport office is in Sydney. That is not a good use of my time at the moment.
We'll put our money on the truck arriving on time then.
Yeah, let's go with that. Anyway, there is added like just ridiculousness of it in that my mail goes to a post office of a town of 1,300 people, so we only get mail delivered every 3 days. So even if it gets there on one day, it might not actually come out to the house for another 2 days.
I feel like you have this beautiful community there though, where the post office is probably going to call you up and be like, hey, we've seen something with a special government looking label, and call you up. And I guess that's one of the that's a very challenging story, but also like a really beautiful story about the community that you're having to say goodbye to as well, which must be all around you at the moment, with the kids going back to school and selling the house and little interactions like that, which make super frustrating things just a little bit more bearable. So I think having to sit with those big feelings would be really hard too. And you're about to fly out, so you leave on Friday.
Yeah, so I'm flying again. I couldn't get a domestic flight to line up with an international one, so I'm flying to Sydney to a nice hotel tomorrow night. Nice hotel as in the airport hotel. The airport hotel tomorrow night to then fly to Bangkok on Friday. And I am going, and I have booked in a school visit. No, I booked in with a friend has given me the number of a real estate, like a letting agent in Bangkok. And so I've got the afternoon with her on Monday to go and look at a bunch of condos and apartments and things. And then a school tour on Tuesday. And then I fly back Wednesday. Again, airport hotel on Wednesday night to then get an early morning flight back to Wagga on the Thursday. So again, just even that, like I've had to palm the kids off for literally 7 nights to do a 4-day thing because I can't sort of make the logistics of that work. But I tell you what, it's been really good in that then, of course, I've handballed them off. They're going to my sister-in-law for 2 nights and then to my in-laws' place for 5 nights. And then, of course, they come home from first day of school with all these invitations to sleepovers and birthday parties and things on the weekend. And I was like, do you know what? If you want to do this, you have to organise it. And so the 12-year-old has been ringing her friends' mums and saying, if you pick me up from school and I come to your place for the sleepover, and then my other friend's mum will pick me up from your house and take me to the next party, and then I've rung my grandma who's going to pick me up from that house. And I was like, do you know what? You want to do it, you can organise it. And so...
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was about to sort of comment on the kind of things that you're dealing with at the moment while you have a partner who has gone, and massive kudos for doing 2 weeks of meals. That's fantastic. Yeah, but all this other mental load that you're carrying and these unexpected hurdles, it's like the typical thing that does come up for the accompanying partner. And it's why I think it's often so hard to continue the career and the thinking about the career, because you're just juggling and catching and trying not to drop all these other things that just keep coming up and have to happen. Like if you're going to move and take your family, you can't just leave the kids at the airport if their passports fail. Like, that's not a
Yeah.
option. Like, these things have to happen. And as you said, yeah, maybe if you got onto this 2 weeks ago, but that's not top of mind when you're looking at a passport that expires in August, to think through all those steps. Like, you're not going to predict the truck thing. And I do think it is a really good example of why the career gets sidelined almost without you realizing it.
Yeah, 100%. And again, this is, I wouldn't say a full-time job, but this is like a full-on part-time job at the moment. Like, I'm also trying to sell 2 cars, sell a house. So doing things like dealing with the lawyer to have a contract for the agent to put the house on the market next week. We have to have a pool compliance certificate to make sure our swimming pool is compliant when it's 15 years old, with every sale of a house. Again, all these things that I just sort of didn't know about. And to be fair, I haven't sold a car in a long time, so I've had to be even like, so when you sell it to someone, do they give you cash, or do they transfer money into you? Do they have to go to the bank and get a check? Like, even that sort of stuff. I was like, oh gosh, I just, my father-in-law bought my car last time, so I just didn't have to do anything with it that time. And so just things like that, where if I had a full-time job with someone, like as an employee, I would be rocking in the corner right now. Like, I actually don't know. Like, I've got the flexibility with Allura. I've got the flexibility with one of my other companies. I'm doing another project where I've literally just said to them, you can have tidbits of time with me until May. Like, I can't even guarantee that I'm going to be all that great before then. And then I had, another company approach me yesterday to do some project work for them. And I really love them, and I've done stuff with them in the past, and I went to say yes. Actually, I kind of did say yes. And then they needed to bring in a friend of mine to do some other stuff, and she roasted me on the phone and was like, what are you doing? You need to ring them back immediately. Absolutely not. I'm not doing the work with you because you shouldn't be doing it at all yourself. So I then was like, sorry, no, I'll send you some other people who might be able to do it. Like, I don't actually know, because again, all of these things I've had to navigate needed to be in office hours. Like, if you didn't have a flexible employer that's going to let you sit on the phone to the passport office for an hour and a half, to then go to the post office, which closes at 5 o'clock, to be there, to, get the kids from school to go and get new passport photos, then go and find a friend that happens to live in town who has their passport that they can sign and officiate all of our paperwork and things like that. Stuff just all takes so much time.
Yeah, and the system is built with the expectation that if you're taking a family with you, there's someone else doing all that. So it doesn't matter, I guess, what the packages look like. And I think the argument often from businesses is, oh, well, you're being paid this, or we've given you this lump sum to help with the relocation. But that doesn't account for all this stuff, which actually takes you away from either performing in a role you're in or looking for a new role. And I think it's like being able to hear you talk it out real time is such a it's a good reminder of me, because I wasn't working when we moved. I had a 6-month-old baby, so I was technically on what was mat leave, and that was exhausting in another way, trying to do it all, but trying to do it with a full-time job, it's like incredibly hard to imagine. And I think it's why so many partners end up putting their careers to the side. I think it's a good reminder to hear you talking it out, because you're one of the most positive and driven people I know. Saying yes to a job that is ridiculous is a classic example for you. So I'm really glad you have lots of great friends around you stopping you doing stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, but I don't know. I'm finding this such an interesting process talking about this, because anyone asks, I'm like, yeah, all good,
Yeah.
So I'm finding this really interesting, actually, almost logging this in real time because it's actually making me reflect on things. And hopefully if people watching this for the first time or if they're doing this for the first time are watching this and being like, oh, okay, like I am not a crazy person that I'm feeling like this. Because I need to remind people, this isn't the first time I've done this either. So, and it's, when we moved to Singapore, I was in a similar situation work-wise, like working for myself. And so I had the flexibility of being able to say to clients and to people like, you're just going to have to give me a bit of time to get back to you on things and stuff. But again, it's not just the leaving time. Packing up in Singapore was the similar thing, redoing things, wrapping stuff up, cancelling, subscriptions to things and leases and finishing up with visas and all of those things. Like, it happens out the back end as well. And I think, again, we just underestimate that, particularly because generally you move for a few years and so you forget the trauma. It's like childbirth. You just sort of, forget about that horrors of moving. This is a really interesting time. But then there's little bits that I'm actually really enjoying that are like, and again, particularly because we're selling this time. Like last time we kind of cheated, and again, the joys of rural life, it's definitely not all bad. We had an old house that was derelict on the farm, and we knocked the house down and put a big shed there. And so when we left last time, we literally just shoved stuff in boxes and put it in the shed and locked it, and we just didn't think about it and came back to rather revolting rat-eaten mattresses. But apart from that, everything else was pretty good after a few years. But what I'm finding quite cathartic, like, this sounds ridiculous, but I was going, before the girls woke up this morning, I was awake because my brain is not doing much sleeping at the moment. And I was like, right, I'm going to clean out like my linen cupboard. So I pulled everything out of the things. I've sorted things into singles, doubles, queens, as far as things. Do I need this linen? Do we need 8 sets of towels for a family of 4? Like, can I donate these to charity? And another thing that I have found incredibly cathartic, and I'm feeling like things are getting organised, is that I went to Bunnings, which Australians would know Bunnings, but it's sort of like a Home Depot for the US, or what's it called in the UK? Anyway, one of those big sort of hardware, buy everything Walmart-y style stores, and got some big suitcase-sized vacuum packs. Nice. And I put like all of our ski gear in. So like, but I've got everything in those big rolly tubs, like, I don't know how many, 70-litre tubs or whatever. And I've managed to condense like 3 tubs into 3 of these deliciously flat-packed things, which I've then shoved back into the cupboard. But I'm like, when the packers come, they're literally going to put these things in there, and I've put like, everything, they're see-through, which is fabulous, so you can see what everything is and stuff. So just even that, I'm such a neat freak. I actually quite enjoy that side of things. So that's actually been quite nice as well. So that has been definitely a positive this week. And also just being like making the kids try stuff on. I was like, if this is even close to not fitting you, it's not coming, because you are growing at the rate of knots. I'm not taking things that you'll be out of in 3 months anyway.
Well, I'm glad you're able to see the positives in what sounds like a pretty messy week, or find the neat opportunities within there. I was just thinking about, because you have done this before and you've got this trip coming up, and I guess thinking about if in these 4 days you've got in Bangkok, like, you were having to do job interviews or networking as well, like, if that was something you were having to do, how would you be feeling, do you think?
Well, you know that I didn't talk about any of the networking things that I have lined up to do while I'm there.
Okay, so not networking, job. Let's talk job. Okay, we need to think about this. Yeah.
Oh, I just can't even fathom what that would look like. I guess I haven't ever done this as a job seeker, so I don't know what that would look like. I'm envisaging that the trip I would have timed it differently. So my days away would have been all midweek. Like I've actively done a Friday arrival so that my husband, we can go and walk. I've packed my runners. We're just going for walks. And to sort of suss out neighbourhoods and things like that and get a vibe for areas and catch, public transport around and sort of do those things.
Jump out of Google Street View into IRL Street
I know,
View.
I'm so excited. I said to my husband this morning when he was like FaceTiming me out the window of the hotel, and he's like, so if you drive down this road, like I feel like we'll be living in those buildings. So like you need to have a look on Google Maps to work out what that building is there. And I was like, this guy's talking my language. I was like, I've already walked all of those streets. And he also reported back that he said it is definitely warm, but nowhere near as humid as Singapore. So I am very excited about our walking around with less humidity than I'm used to in Asia. But yeah, I think if I was trying to find a job, I think I would have had to have done midweek things. Again, there's a fair bit of serendipity that you're trying to line up if you're job seeking at the same time. One is finding jobs that are appropriate. Two is getting an interview for them. And then three is trying to negotiate, hey, I'm here for like literally this time. Can you fit me in for an interview that just by chance these jobs are all appropriate for you, are all interviewing at the same time and that would do that? Like the chances of that happening is just so slim.
Yeah. 100%. And it reminds me of a conversation that we've had, not on camera, which is around how you are being quite proactive in how you're working with the business that your husband is moving for and reaching out to them and talking to them. So do you want to, I know you haven't you've got more ideas than what you've implemented, but do you want to talk a little bit about what you have done? Because I think that would be really helpful for people to, I guess, take a bit of agency and reminder that you are a huge part of the success of the move and you can sort of put yourself forward as that.
Yep. So a really interesting hot tip, which that's a great question because we hadn't sort of really spoken about this after a week or two ago, or whenever it was that we had our first meeting with the relocation agency. And just sort of going back before I say that to the thing you said before about the attitude sort of being like, you're getting paid to do this, like suck it up. Yes, there's things involved. Like, we're paying the relocation agency to do this. The ones that we're dealing with are great. Like they're great with whatever that means. Great in that they're nice people that I've dealt with so far. I actively, in that first initial meeting, asked for all communications to have me CC'd in on. And I actively said to them, it will be me that you're dealing with. Like with my husband sitting next to me in the Zoom call with them, I said, it will be me, so make sure that I'm in all of the communications. An email then came from, so I was dealing, I think I said, about the team in Switzerland and in London. So I got an email from the Bangkok associate. Great, looking forward to you coming in March, so planning the March. So this trip I'm going on this week is off our own back. We're doing this ourselves. Work is paying for a trip that I think is only just going to cover me, but we've decided to take the hit and bring the girls as well, which we didn't do last time. We didn't bring them over and they sort of just moved that first time. Just clarifying where things happened. Like they said, okay, well, we will pick you up from the hotel at this time. Tell us where the hotel is. We will arrange a school visit for you and tell us the sorts of apartments and things. And I said, okay, well, that time doesn't work because we haven't booked flights yet. So they were literally trying to book the pickup when I would be on a plane. In my mind, I would be in a plane. And then I had to clarify, hang on, are you booking our flights or do we book them and someone reimburses us? Or does someone at work book them for us? Even just those things, my assumption had been that these guys are managing our end-to-end thing, that they would be booking the flights and accommodation, and they're not. So, and it's not us booking them. I have to then get Hugh to deal with HR internally who will book them.
Yeah.
So I can't do that part. So it then gets handballed back on to him, who I'm dealing with time differences. Those are those are out of my hands, and whatever first world problems, I've got to wait for a bit longer and things. But I'm actively being very visual in all those conversations.
Yeah.
All the comms my husband is not he's CC'd into everything, but he's not responding to anything, which is great. So it's all coming back into me. And something that I'm actively doing with the business in any contacts that I'm having with anyone from the company, which actually, now that I say that, I haven't had any of those. My plan is I'm hoping that my husband will be able to connect me with HR so that I can manage that stuff. And I will start getting my little claws into them and being like, hey, so the relocation agency told us that you're moving a lot of people to Bangkok at the moment, because they've closed the Singapore office because it's a big company, so they're moving people around. And I'm going to hit them up and say, would you be happy to connect me with some of the other spouses that are arriving or that are recently arrived, that I can then go and have a coffee with in April when we get there permanently and things. So that's very much my plan of weaseling myself into the business. And I think if you're confident and bolshy enough to do that, I highly, highly recommend it, because regardless of the jobs that my husband has done, I have always actively, whether they've been in Australia or abroad, I've actively tried to get engaged with the companies, and it has always worked in our favour. So Exhibit A being our move to Singapore, my husband's boss was an American, and because we've been rurally based, whenever the bosses come to town, I always say to Hugh, let's organise a dinner and I come. So I always get to eyeball them, and they get to be reminded that there's a human at home when they're making the worker traipse all over the countryside and be doing all of these things. And I actually really hit it off with his boss, and she happened to be in a meeting in the US when this job had come up in Singapore, and people had thrown Hugh's name out, and someone had said, oh no, he's got a wife and young kids, they won't move. And because the boss knew me, she was like, no, he's the right guy. I know the wife, she's mobile, she'll be able to go. And so that job just would not have even come across his desk if he hadn't miraculously just been in the US that time. Like, she was based in Sydney and happened to be just there for this meeting, and two, was able to advocate for me because I've advocated for myself in there. So
yeah,
I can't recommend it more. Like, I can't recommend it more.
And I think you really lived that, and I think it's as much as possible, I think we'll try to share the ways that you do that, because I don't think it's front of mind for everyone. And also, I think, as we've talked about in our different sessions in Allura, when you are the accompanying partner, your confidence can erode a little, and so whether you might have done that in the past and you might not feel so comfortable doing it. So having you as a guiding light on how to do that, I think, is really wonderful for our members. And also, just like, kudos to you, Jo. You're so great the way that you tackle these challenging things, always with a smile, seeing the silver lining in your linen cupboard. I love that.
Well, it's not always with a smile, but thank you. I think as well. I think as well that it's just if this is not your normal state of play, and this sounds like horrific, you know what? You're doing brave things by doing this. Like, lean into it. And you might, oh God, I would never have done that. But you know what? Why not do it now? You might not get as a responsive employer, and I might find I'll get there and they'll be like, find your own friends, or work it out yourself, or get your husband to find friends and then introduce you to the partner. I don't know. It could be awesome. Yeah.
And you won't, at least you'll have tried it.
100%.
So the next time we have our diary entry, you will have been and gone to Bangkok, which is super exciting, but we're going to make sure you do some reels while you're there as well, so that we can share back what that experience is of actually walking the streets, not just
We might have to
walking
have a
around.
bonus episode.
Yeah, I think that would be very valuable, although we don't want to give everyone motion sickness, so we'll just be careful in how we cut it.
Nice.
But thank you so much, Drew, and wishing you very safe travels and exciting times away.
Thanks. We'll nearly be in the same time zone next week.
Can't wait. See ya.